Sharp Game here. Welcome to another episode coming at you from ChooseYourRelationships.com. And today I'm going to talk about why you should never get married just because you love someone. Why you should never get married just for love. And I know this is kind of a controversial subject. And I know I'm going to get some negative comments because I understand where a lot of people are coming from. Because I used to be just like you. I used to be just like a lot of people when it comes to marriage and love. And you got to hear me out, you know, because this is facts. And I'm going to give you a different perspective on marriage and love. Now, you got to think about it. Think about this for a second. Now, as marriage is probably one of the biggest decisions and commitment that you probably ever make in your lifetime. And why is it not being taught in school? Why they don't talk about marriage, love in school? Why it's not something why it's so taboo? No one really talks about it. All they tell you is just find the person you want to be with, person you fall in love with. You get married, have a big ass wedding, done spent 20, 30, 40, 50, 100,000, sometimes more than that. And you get married, have a kid, buy a house, have a couple cars, and you live happily ever after. And hopefully you stay together. If not, just get a divorce. Split. Well, the women usually take up to 80% in most states. And the guy leaves. He's paying alimony, child support for 18 years. Child support for 18 years. Well, plus if they go to college, it might be more than that. So this is all that you hear. This is all that they tell you. But they never tell you how marriage came about. Why is that? And they'll tell you how love came about. Why do you think that is? I'm asking you. And I'm going to tell you how marriage came about. Marriage came about, and it had nothing to do with no damn love. It came about like this. Marriage was all about protecting property and assets. Because back in the day, white women couldn't leave the house. Because white guys, rich white guys, well, not necessarily rich. Everybody wasn't rich. But mostly white guys wanted to keep their women from all the other men, especially black men or African men back then. African men back then. But today, black men or African American, whatever you want to call them, whatever you want to acknowledge who you are, it's up to you. But the point I'm trying to get to is marriage is all about property, maintaining and keeping assets, and making sure that the next generation, everything was passed down and protected and trust with no problems. That's what marriage was about. That's how it came about. It had nothing to do with no love. It had nothing to do with how I feel and all these emotions that people go through. And this is why a lot of people don't really understand what marriage is all about and the history of marriage and how it came about. They just get all emotional about everything. And the word love, when I was growing up, I never heard anybody talk about love. That was like one of those taboo subjects. And most people can't even tell you what it means. I mean, think about that for a second. Love means different things to everybody, to most people. So that's the problem in itself. Even marriage means different things to everybody. But by law dominates marriages. And if you don't believe it, go to your courthouse 5 days a week in your nearest city or town that you live in or near, and the attorneys and the judges are laughing all the way to the bank. So law, when it comes to law, that dominates everything. They don't care how you feel when it comes to marriage. But people see marriage different, just like people see love different. When love came about, I didn't hear anybody talk about that when I was growing up very much. It was one of those things where people were just getting married. People were just, they wanted to be together. They just move in with each other. I never really had a conversation with anybody when I was growing up as a kid. I didn't. I mean, I just assumed my parents love each other, but they never actually said it. They said it to each other, but they didn't go into details how they love each other. That's what I'm talking about. See, that was one of those taboo subjects. People don't say, hey, what is love and what it entails. No one really talks about that. They still don't talk about that today. I mean, some people might give you a broad perspective on what love means to them, but they don't know where it stems from. Love came about when a lot of these holidays started really popping off in the 80s. Because, you got Valentine's Day, and you got the 4th of July, and you got Thanksgiving, and you got Christmas, and you got New Year's Eve. And then when these holidays started popping off, and when a lot of women, they started coming up with a lot of products and for women and a lot of clothes and all that shit, that's when love became a big deal. Because the guys on Madison Avenue and, a lot of people that work for these big Fortune 500 companies, these advertising companies, they have to make money for the big businesses. So in the 80s, the late 80s, it started to pop off. And in the 90s and early 2000s, it was off the hook. I mean, they had advertising and they had, marketing campaigns everywhere. Billboard, and the internet just took things to the next level, because a lot of people, a lot of big businesses, even though they caught on later in the 2000s, but a lot of them wasn't even on the internet in the 90s or the early 2000s. A lot of them just caught on 10 years ago. But the internet gave them more room for leverage. And because you can have two voices. You can have a voice online and you can have a voice on television. So that gave the big businesses more leverage and more room for growth. And they could reach more people. And they could reach a different demographic of people online. And then they could cater towards women when it comes to products, stores like Victoria's Secret, Macy's, the big brands like, I can go on and on, really. But because a lot of these companies have to sell their products, and they know guys aren't going to really spend a lot of money like that unless it involves women. See, guys will spend a lot of money if it involves a woman, but just for themselves, no, guys don't really spend a lot of money on themselves like that. not as much as women do. I mean, every once in a while, a guy might splurge or spend a lot of money on himself, but that doesn't happen like that on a consistent basis. Now, women, I know some women go shopping every month. Guys don't go shopping every month. Guys don't go to the mall every month. But these big companies, they researched and got the data, so they started coming up with sales and marketing and advertising that catered towards women falling in love and women looking sexy for the guys and women wearing nice dresses and shoes for the guys. And that's how the love campaigns kicked off. It ain't had nothing to do with no marriage. It ain't had nothing to do how you felt, or how women feel about you. The companies just wanted to make money. That's how love came about, really. And that's how marriage came about. This is why I say you should never get married just for love. And if you do some research, you get a better understanding of how marriage came about, and how love came about. You don't have to listen to anything I say. You do your own research. That way you really understand where I'm coming from. And if you do some more research, you find that most people that get married just for love, they usually end up getting a divorce. Because what happens is a lot of women that come in a lot of relationships, they come in with like they kind of like in the cloud, kind of like in a fantasy world, and they don't really know what relationships and marriage is all about. They just got caught up in the reading novels and looking at magazines and looking at the television, and they don't really understand that a lot of this marketing and advertising is just to grab their attention and sell their products. And everything that you see on television is planned or staged in advance. Because they're not gonna let people get on television without briefing them and telling them what they can say and what they can't say. But a lot of women don't understand or probably don't realize it. So this is why a lot of relationships don't work, because the expectations a lot of women have is off the roof, off the rafters. It's really unreasonable and irrational, and it never works. If you come in thinking that you're in, kind of like in a fantasy world, it never works. So this is why you should never get married just for love. If you get married, you better have a reason why, a very specific reason why you're getting married. And it better be planned in advance, and you better make sure that you're on the same page with the woman, and you have to reiterate and it's a work in progress. You have to continue to be on the same page. Otherwise, it probably won't work out. And you probably be one of those guys that the attorneys and the judges going to be laughing to the bank. And they don't care about you and your marriage, and they don't care about how you feel when you get in that courtroom. So that's how it is. That's how marriage and love came about. So, I'd highly recommend you do your own research. So if you like what you heard, subscribe to my channel. Check out my blog, chooseyourrelationships.com. Until next time, Sharp King is out. Peace.